That's one of the things I like about the book. It seems to be written on three different levels. There's a graduate level,
Yep.
and then there's like
Yep.
a high school level,
Yes.
and then there's like a
Yes.
general
Yes.
knowledge level.
Right. And it takes a certain mind to put it all together and make sense. I read, if you read just one part and one part, you can't put the glue together. But if you take the big picture and read the whole thing, you can see the glue and the continuity of it, and no one person can do that. No one individual has that much knowledge about the kingdom of heaven. That's the way I see it, and that's where the authors, whoever they say they are, mighty messengers, Melchizedek's, I believe they are. Now, those are the people who are communicating. How it got into black and white so we can read it, that's another story.
Right.
And who massages that? And that's what the forum was about. In 1928 or 24, when that contact came down, when the first paper came down, and the next one in a sequence,
Yeah.
and then the Jesus papers all at once, it makes sense of a epical revelation and not just channeling. I grew up as a Catholic, and I guess when I was like 6 or 7, my parents became involved with Jehovah's Witnesses, living in Brooklyn, near the Watchtower and Bible and Tract Society. We got real close to the Bethel Boys, and helped build Kingdom Halls with Jehovah's Witnesses in Ridgewood, where I grew up, Bushwick area. And being a kid in Brooklyn, you don't want to not be a Catholic Sicilian boy. So preaching the word, Jehovah's door to door, I couldn't do that. But I was just a kid. But my parents took me along, and I had to do what they wanted me to do and become Jehovah's Witnesses. One of the problems I have is getting on stage. I can't do that. I get frozen or something like that. Anyway, I continued my Catholic upbringing with my family and my street buddies, but Jehovah's Witnesses were a different way of looking at deity and God, and there is no hell, and different way. And I was really mixed up as a kid growing up. So I get out of that whole philosophy of religion, and went into service and joined IBM and did a lot of other things. And while I was at Stanford University putting IBM's computers on the Ethernet, I learned a lot about the Palladians. New Age stuff was going on, Noetic Society, remote viewing, and I went to Berkeley, and I joined the Noetic Society in the Pacifica. A lot of New Age stuff that was going on. And I started reading a lot of stuff, and that's when I met this lady with the Urantia Book. She was a Mormon, and she showed me the book, and I looked at the book, and God, Jesus, not for me, but I looked at energy, time, space, and matter, and ultimatons. Ultimaton is the smallest quanta of matter, and it has this nucleus in paradise. What the hell is this? One time, 1933, didn't even explode the atomic bomb yet. Where did this knowledge come? So I borrowed the book, and I eventually had to buy my own book because it was so, all the pieces of the puzzle that was missing in my spiritual life that I grew up with, this book put those pieces together, and it made sense. The administration, who Jesus was, Adam and Eve, evolution, other planets, boy, it fulfills the requirements of knowledge needed to grow the soul and continue on. That's where it's at, And this whole new philosophy about the thought adjuster, and like we talked about, the being fused with that fragment of God, or being spirit fused or sun fused. There's a lot of ways of looking at the possibilities of us mortals after we graduate here. They had this gathering in San Francisco where a group of people called a foundation got with a group of people called the Brotherhood, and discussing who owns the basketball and what rules we play by. And I listened to that, and I couldn't believe that those people read the same book that I read, and they're discussing ownership of how trademarks and ownership and copyright. It just blew me away. And I couldn't believe that these people, even today, are bickering about some of the stuff. And I'm glad to see people like Harry McMullen do his job of, not that he has to break it, but, you know, freely give and freely give. There's no ownership to this revelation. The book talks about weighted voting. And when I met Dan Massey, he's a computer guy, really a sharp guy, and I says, you know, how come these people don't have a computer? He said, they're not ready for it. They're not ready for a computer? When I first met him in one of the conferences. And I says, well, you have to have a database and to have weighted voting. And there's the part of when I approached my society, David Canner and Larry Watkins, really another IBM buddy of mine. And we talked about, you know, they should have weighted voting. You get a database, and on the government, on a neighboring planet, like I says, there's suffrage, and they have so many votes, you can buy so many votes, and you can have so many votes by doing different things, service. And that's on the government on a neighboring planet that has weighted voting. The Urantia Book says, on Jerusalem, every personality, angels, material sons, mortals, every personality there has from 1 to 1,000 votes. And now, how do you acquire those votes? By service or whatever, same way, right? So here we are on Earth. We should develop a methodology to have that fellowship foundation group develop that database so we can have weighted voting to get an organization in place. Not that we need a religion, it's a fellowship, it's a society. It's where we should be going in a way of government, like a government on a neighboring planet.
So when you were watching them bicker,
Yeah.
basically, you thought that how could they fall away from the message?
Well, you know, I didn't know a lot about the people. And there I found out about the people, and then I found out about Berm Grimsley and Fogg and how that fiasco came about, where people were communicating and things got out of whack. Who's the good guys, who's the bad guys? A lot of people get communications where they're the thought adjuster or angels or whatever. That's how the Urantia Book got here. Whether it was Kellogg or Sadler or Chrissy, I believe people did communicate. And the validity of what comes out then to make the book happen through the forum, massaging the papers, getting them better and better, I believe that why they did it. If they want to become a teaching mission group now, they should do that now, and they don't. I mean, I found out that these teaching mission people, a lot of them, it goes to their head, and they have to back out. I don't want to get into the teaching mission at this point, but I'm a supporter in people who do, but I'm afraid that a lot of these people take advantage of other people, and I would say it's a lot of power and money. People want to make money off of other people, and that's not the game. And as soon as I see that, I get very upset about that.
And your radar is up for that.
Oh yeah, the flag comes up.
Yeah.
I mean, we learn about the spirit of truth through the Urantia Book. There's a truth bell that rings, and I believe that's what the spirit of truth is. You listen to some of this stuff, and I learned nothing new, so I just let it go. And there's where I haven't learned anything from the teaching mission. But you have to be open to it. I believe a lot of these people, if you build it, they will come. And the Manjuransan, there's about 3 different groups professing to support the coming of a magisterial son by the name of Manjuransan, something like that.
I think the spirit of truth works kind of like harmonics. It either rings true, it either comes together, and you just get that vibration,
Well,
or you don't.
right. It's continuity, synchronicity. I mean, everything in the universe has got some kind of continuity to it. They talked about the personality circuits, the spiritual circuits. There's all these different circuits, and I don't know who has control over that. The individual will receive that input. Does it ring true or not? And there's where, in the beginning, where I went to this first Spirit Fest, there was like 6 or 7 or sometimes 8 of these TRs. And they would get into their mode and they would communicate one Tarkus, Cigna, Bethra, all these different celestial beings that are their counterpart on the other side. And they would communicate with each other and bring out things. It kind of was interesting, but there was no new stuff. There was no student. I haven't seen a lot of any new stuff that I can say it's Urantia Book based new stuff.
And in terms of ringing true, how did that? Those
Well,
sounds?
I like to, I think some of them are getting their input from possibly their thought adjusters when there's, I don't know. I have never, ever gotten any type of communication from the other side.
I think Ernest would say some of those communications are from Caligastia.
Ernest told me about an experience that he had with God. I don't know if he told you about that.
You did not talk.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who have talked to me about their personal experiences. Anyway, I've been involved in the teaching mission supporting a website, and that's the TML. I don't know if you ever heard of that, Teaching Mission List. And even the people on that list argue, and they have 2 lists now, the CTC. We won't get into that right now. But no matter where you go, you're going to have people who agree and disagree. And there's where I go along because I know the possibilities. So I don't give them a lot of energy and credibility, but I'll listen to what they have to say.
And basically, you would say it has to come down to sorting it out for yourself.
Yeah. I haven't found a lot of value yet. And it bothers me when some people go off on a tangent so far that it makes the Urantia readership look bad. That's what I don't like. I mean, I just come back from my Air Force buddies, and one's an agnostic, one's an atheist, and here I'm trying to tell them about the kingdom of heaven and God and the possibility of the spirit world. They laugh at me and you're what have you been smoking, Sal? Keep smoking what you. And that's my Air Force buddies.
Yeah.
You're not going to please everybody with your belief system.
No, I think the general trend is going in that direction. I mean, away from belief in spirituality, especially the traditional stuff.
You can't prove it. There's a part you can't prove spirituality. I can't. I mean, I don't know who can. The channelers for sure can't, because they are not in sync themselves with their concepts of the magisterial sun. And that bothers me because everybody knows it's going to happen eventually. And that's where I say they're trying to build it, and if they build it, it'll come. I don't know. I don't like that.
They have their own schedule, the Celestials.
I'm sure there's a plan in place, and when Christ Michael wants us to know, I'm sure he'll be key in that presentation. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, going back to your childhood, I guess you could say, your original religious upbringing.
Right.
Now, so you grew up with a certain sense of, what's right and what's wrong in
Right.
society, social justice and all of that. Now, did the Urantia book build on that, or did it change it?
Well, yeah. Yeah, the Urantia Book definitely. Well, my son doesn't like me as much as he used to because I'm not as wild and willy as I used to be before I got the Urantia Book. Because the Urantia Book kind of tells you gotta walk the line now because everything is written down. The thought adjuster and you make decisions, and the soul either grows or deflates. You got to keep. I think of it. It's like a balloon with a hole in it. You got to keep pumping air into it. No action, the balloon deflates, and the soul does not grow.
All right, so you look around the world today, you've got all of these things going on, like there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of unequal treatment, and
Now, the end times. I mean, I think of my Jehovah's Witness buddy. There is another Air Force guy who doesn't come with us. I think he's an elder in Jehovah's Witnesses now, and he won't come with us because I think he's afraid that all 5 or 6 of us have different opinions, and since he's on a plateau with Jehovah's Witnesses, he doesn't want to come down to our level of debate. And Jehovah's Witnesses believe in Armageddon. The last days now are really happening, right? Earthquakes, rumors of wars, and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And Matthew 24th chapter, real big. And just like Ernest Moya, he's into the end days. But it could be, but I think it's a normal reaction. We just got a lot of people on the planet, and there's no direction. But I believe that, Christ Michael has better plans for this planet than Armageddon and pestilence and stuff like that. And, there's where I have no fear, right? Have no fear.
oh yes,
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting smaller in that respect. In a certain way, it reminds me of a brain, the way it hooks up neurologically. All of the nerve cells hook up, and they build into these systems, and it becomes one unit, and it seems like with the growth in communications technology and the way the world is shrinking in that respect, it also is becoming more organized,
Right.
neurologically.
It's becoming like more computerized. That's what's happening. God the Supreme is that big computer in the sky who's getting all this input and the experiences that we're all having. I mean, there's where the rubber meets the road. All things will happen. It's just what can you do when you have the opportunity in your time.
You put 300 and some thousand miles on your car.
Oh, yeah.
Just traveling around to
Yeah.
various Urantia Book
Right.
study groups and so on.
Right.
So if you had to summarize your experiences with those groups, how would you do that?
Great people. Great people. Very loving, very hugging, upfront. But I don't know when you leave a congregation and go home after you go to church, do you continue doing what you do when you're at church? I don't know that. I don't know how these people are when they leave a gathering. I like the small groups that get together and discuss whatever. I have some good friends. I met some really nice friends, and I've also got some enemies. Such is life.
Goes with. Yes, sometimes think of the universe in terms of an engineering construct. I have this idea that it's just encircuited, that everything is plugged into everything else.
I was trying to tell my Air Force buddies that, everything is circuitry, everything is frequency. When you start with, and these guys are well aware of evolution, all right? Mm-hmm. But when we talk about the evolution of the spirit, mind over matter, and that I'm here, you're here, and we're controlling these molecules, there's other molecules, there's higher levels, just like the ants and the bugs below us, there's higher levels above us that are part of the evolutionary process of this age of evolution. We're not alone. One guy says, they just found out there's possible life forms, other planets like ours. I says, don't you think there's life there too? Of course, you're getting into the book. You're getting into the book. Of course, there's life out there. And they can't. Common sense says there are, but they don't want to admit that. Where the Urantia book puts it in spades that we're teeming with personalities out there in the 7 super universes. The 4 quadrants are being developed for the next age. You look at the Urantia book with 1 billion worlds, the first age, perfection, evolutionary. Then and there's it's easy for me to read the Urantia book and understand it. I think I understand the Urantia book. I think a lot of people read the Urantia book. The more you read it, the more you understand it, the better you become a Urantian, a person who understands what we're all about, what we're doing here. I would like to see the fellowship and the foundation become an organization like the Mormon religion taking over Utah. I think the Urantia book would take over Colorado. That was a thought. There's some good people there. They're doing a lot of work. There's not enough. I mentioned to, I forgot who it was, Hermit. Anyway, what happened to Boulder School? And he says, there wasn't enough jobs for those people to stay there. Well, when I got one of the tapes from a group there, and I forgot who the guy was, and he says, what the Urantia book teaches me is that I'm a citizen of the universe. And that's exactly what we're talking about. What do you get from the Urantia book? It tells you who you are in time and space, in the now of the Urantia book's concept of what are you doing here? What are we doing here? What is your track record? What is your audit trail? What's your soul? In fact, there's the part when we get to the mansion worlds, we're supposed to be able to see each other like we were. Of course, it would be a different body, but that personality will be able to be recognized just like all the other planets will look different to us, but we will look the same to each other, and we'll look at them, and it'll all be pretty easy to realize that we're just continuing on with the next phase as you go from high school to college to university. And that's what I see it's all about. And we all graduate, I'm not looking forward to it yet, but I'm sure I will. We all do.